and she is a writer and an artist. And I met you last summer at the book day at Mowers Meadow.
And it was such a wonderful thing to meet you and participate.
Well, it was fun. The whole day was fun.
Yes.
And I had made arrangements with John Maurer to do 2 book days this season. But the pandemic is kind of in the way. So now we're doing individual interviews, which is really, really nice. And the thing that brought you to Mowers Meadow last year was this book.
Oh.
This was the one. Now I see the poetry books.
Yeah, this is more recent. This is what I like you to concentrate first. Yeah, this book for children and young at heart that you read.
Yeah, oh yeah, absolutely.
And
well, now is this your only children and young at heart book?
In English.
In English. So tell me about the others.
Well, even this book actually was born in the 60s as a Hebrew book, and it was published in Israel, and it was called, it was about the monsters. And I remember visiting London in 1968, and I remember seeing Maurice Sendak creation, Where the Wild Beasts Are. And everyone, this is really what truly moved me deeply. And I remember feeling so elated because I was concerned about monster ever since I was a child. And I think many children are. And some adults have really scare you with monster stories. So, and suddenly, Maurice Sendak elevated it, the whole thing, and I also realized that some characters of my life that, I would turn them into creatures, and so resolved my attitude, and it's a very interesting, but my story really started when I was in London, and I saw Maurice Sendak's creation, and I went to Amsterdam, and it was Easter, and I was told that there is no hotel for me, and I went to Volendam. They sent me to Volendam, where I was really very happy to be in this. At that time, it was very original, a kind of setting. And I actually got lost in a junkyard there and met happy gypsies. And later on, and in my first edition, I mentioned it as, gypsies, but now I call them caravan dwellers, which is politically correct. And they were very, actually sophisticated people and kind and happy, and so they showed me the way home. And but I turned the whole experience into an adventure of someone who is lost and finds himself in a strange land of monsters, which is a junkyard. And I just I recently read about Maya Angelou and her memoir, like how she spends a whole month in a junkyard as a teenager and slept in a car and discovered a whole community of children. And the first thing they did, they questioned her and told her what are the rules if she wants to stay there, because they are all runaways and no stealing, because no police. So just apropos, and this is, a junkyard, and other people were living there, and so I remember coming back to Amsterdam, and I was so captivated, and I was so lucky to be invited to a place where I could stay with a family. and I actually wrote the first 12 pages.
Of this book?
Yes, the idea.
Mm-hmm.
And then I went back to Israel, and I was working at the time with the Sifriyat Poalim, which is the kibbutzim publisher. And it was really a very good time at that time. So I was really lucky to find an editor that would encourage me to write the book. And so I wrote the book, and it was even published in colors, and was awarded as one of the 12 best books of that year. And it was kind of revolutionary of its kind, because it was really about monsters and very contemporary and very 60s. And I think that no one made in Israel illustrations like that, so I got a lot of compliments. And then I came here, so life led me, I followed my heart and my love. And I really love books, and it was really my big dream to see it in English ever since I came here, and it took me a long time, because try and error, and someone tried to translate it, and then I decided, I read it, and realized that so many years passed, and that things have changed in my perception, and there is a possibility to look at things much deeper, and actually become, talk on behalf of the caravan dwellers and show them as teachers. And they were so different from the Dutch people, who were the villagers, the fishermen, and they were wearing the wooden cloaks. And Tom, the hero, he really wants to be free, at least because he doesn't know his own soul. He's looking for an understanding. He's in search, and he ended up teaching, actually. And so I'm really very excited that I rewrote it in English and brought it to a level that I published it under Designs for Enlightenment, Turtle Island, which is my name, and I'm very proud of it. And now I have really a big, wonderful announcement that the book is going to be recorded.
Are you really going to do that?
Not me, even though I've done many recordings, but I'm totally in love with the Audible production, and I was just looking for a long time for a voice, and my my struggle ended when I actually went one day and heard Cynthia Adler read her short stories, and really fell in love with her voice, and have been asking her ever since, hoping to meet her and to ask her, which finally happened. And I'm so happy that she's going to do it, and here in Woodstock, which is good to start using the studios again. And it's her. She has a name as a voice because she was one of the voices in, I think, Fantastic Planet and Sesame Street and The Muppet Show and many other commercials, because commercials bring money. And the voice can bewitch people. And she's just the right person because she has this playfulness, and she can create the characters and bring them alive in different voices. And so this is also my production.
That's wonderful. Do you know when this is going to happen?
Well, this is going to happen in this upcoming month, the 8th month.
That's wonderful.
Yes, yes.
So you started off, was this your first book? When you were in Israel?
No, my first book was, I think my first book that I wrote was a poetry book.
Was it published?
Yes.
Okay, so
And it also was published by this very good publishing house of the kibbutzim.
this is very interesting. Then you did this, and then life goes along with all of its twists and turns and everything, and now you're doing it again.
Right. Because I really kind of felt that it's a story, like Cynthia said, it's a story like no other story. And it's a classic on its own right because it's very challenging. And I want very much to offer young readers something of quality, something that will engage them in the reading. And so I'm kind of committed to committed somehow by myself to create quality.
Well,
and
you know,
to improve.
But each person who writes, I think, we have our own commitment to something. Mm-hmm. You know, whatever it is, you know, that's the individual. It's the individual thing. So this is wonderful, and I am just so encouraged by the fact that you took this and you didn't say to yourself, well, now I've moved beyond this. This is my past. I'll go on to something else. And you have realized the classical qualities in this story, and you are bringing it now to a new generation. And I think it's wonderful that you are doing this as an audiobook. Will this be an ebook?
Well, it is already an ebook.
Oh, is it really?
Yeah, but I'm not so happy. It's available, and anyone can buy it for $2. And I feel I want to recreate it, the ebook, with better quality. There are a few things that I did not had a control over. So, but it's really was a wonderful thing when it happened. You know, I published it first of all through Pronoun, who really offers, and I really wanted to see how I can do it myself. Because when, like, you have a dream and you're obsessed with this dream, and you cannot do it because you have to wait. You condition yourself, and the society conditions you. And when you are young, sometimes things are happening, and they are out of the blue, and you have luck, and then you have to learn to create your luck. So, and your expression, and I really want to reach very much to children and young at heart.
Well, you know, that's very interesting. You were talking about an ebook. I just finished, well, I have a couple of ebooks, but I just finished my first video. And I just did it one night. I was just being so encouraged to do it. And I finally said, okay, we'll do it next Tuesday. We'll do it one time. That's it. And it really is, it's a fundraiser, and it's not necessarily a completely professional product. But the woman who did it said that it was extremely important to have it because this is your first endeavor. So your ebook is your first endeavor. You have something to spring forward from. Mm-hmm. And in books, that's what we do. And you have a history now of this. You did this one, and then you sprang forward with the more modern one. And then you did the ebook, and now you're going to do another ebook.
Well, now I'm going to do an Audible.
And right, and now you have
and this.
yes.
And I want to say that about the problem of reading books. and that it's really, for most people, quite difficult. People read when they are young because they have something to work out. So they try this or this guru, that story. And stories are usually really allowing the reader to go through a process. And actually the woman who encouraged me to republish it was a girl who read this book when she was 8 in Hebrew, and then she called me when she was 40, and she wanted to know why the book has disappeared from the shelves.
Wow.
And she wants her children to read it, and she will never forget this book. It was, she had a thing with a book.
Mm-hmm.
So she said every time I wanted to isolate myself, I will sneak into the book.
How beautiful.
And go with Tom all over again through his troubles. And she interpreted it as a shamanic journey, that the boy was going through a shamanic journey because it all started with a fire. And the water followed. And there are all the elements there.
Yes.
And the light and the air and...
Yes.
So, and then he comes up and he has a resolve. So what did you feel when you read it?
Oh, I just felt like it was delightful. I really, really did. And I was so surprised. And then one of the things that I thought about is once the coronavirus hit, I became aware that people were not buying paper books anymore. Everything is ebook. I mean, that's really where it's going. I don't know if it's still doing that, but that's what was happening in the winter. Everything was ebooks. And I was thinking, oh, this one, we don't want this one to get lost, So now it appears to me, and I don't know whether you're having this experience or not, that as a writer, when we write a book, we are no longer just writing a book. Now we do the Audible, we do the video, we do the ebook. It comes out in different, things.
And this book really will render itself into a movie.
Oh yeah.
And so
Absolutely.
I hope by turning it into an Audible, it will communicate faster. And I really believe deeply in the healing power of the voice, and that people have an influence on us when they talk. And so I myself really listen a lot, and I also read. But I believe that this is on the rise now. The people will start listening more and more, but also buying books.
I hope. I really hope. You pay attention and you know what's going on. I know what's going on in my little square, but I don't know what's going on in a lot of them. And for example, today I was in a bookstore and I was thinking, I wonder, But I really like the idea of the audios and the videos and the nooks and the different things like that. It's like now we are able to communicate in so many different ways. And when I first started writing a book, I never really thought about it as a communication tool. Like you have a story and you're working on the story. I focused on the story. I didn't focus on it as a communication tool. And of course, that's what writers are, as communicators.
Right.
Communicators and philosophers. And then on the other side, I realized that when you come up with a book, it's like taking a message and putting it into a bottle and throwing the bottle in the ocean, it's going to go wherever it goes. Once you turn loose of it,
That's true.
and for in your case, rewriting it is part of the journey.
It was an amazing experience. And I'm very grateful to some good people who helped me along the way. And the beginning was hard. And I remember I collaborated with a young friend, Sumi Lubin, and she helped me with the first 3 chapters. And then I went on and finished it and shared it. It was very important at that point to really share it with constructive criticism and to see how I have changed, and so many things have changed, and it has to be updated. For instance, the subject or the place where everything happens, the journey, is a junkyard. And what used to be in a junkyard in the 60s is not what is in a junkyard today.
That's very true.
Right. So all the cell phones.
Yeah.
So I made a whole ceremony with the cell phones, the junky cell phones, and it's like a little. It will be beautiful in animation. All the monsters and their personality, and as it's really interesting, like to have a conversation with a bug. And people ask me, why did you turn one of the characters, this mighty bug, so small but he's mighty? And it's simply because I really was scared of them. And I decided to befriend them, as I've decided to befriend everything that scares me. And so I hope many people will take the journey and will have the courage to actually sit down and read. If you ask people about their reading habits, you can know everything about them. So many people are so anxious that just the idea of sitting down and reading something fills them with fear. And so I wish, I think the utmost epidemic that we suffer from now is really illiteracy. And we have to work very hard on our young generation, especially teenagers, and really create book club with them before they start reading about Huxley at age 15, just to catch them at that point when they lose interest.
For years now, I haven't felt this way in a long, long time. I feared that literacy was disappearing. I really did. And here in the last 3 years, I have begun to realize that it isn't literacy that's disappearing, because we have the cell phones. People are reading, but it's in a different form. And I don't know whether it's going to progress and improve, or whether it is, and I don't know how long a cell phone is going to even exist.
Well, who knows, but telepathy must increase.
Well, that's true. I mean, there is some, but it's very, very, they're reading and they are writing.
But it's all more nervousness.
Well, in the depth, I don't know. But
it's very beautiful. I think we should not put down the text. I appreciate very much technology and what it has to offer.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
So I myself really cannot even describe my joy when I saw my first iPhone, and that suddenly all my dreams came true. And the joy was, and a lot of people had this amount, that they feel suddenly they can communicate. And we have so many ways to communicate, and the question is, what do we communicate if we really take advantage of it? But it's a playground.
Oh, absolutely. Definitely phones are a playground. There's no question about that at all. I'm hopeful.
But imagine that instead of playing, someone will just sit and listen to a story.
Well, that's happening. That's happening. We know that. The audiobooks are doing quite well.
And also I think it's good to have like book clubs for young people. They use, because to challenge them to read, maybe even to try it with short stories. There are children who really swallow books, and there are others who shy away, and don't know, it's also kind of, they pick up on the environment, and the environment is unclear about itself and its future, and all schools are now, so it's really, I feel it's a big shift in the way we see ourselves functioning in the world. And
I think we've definitely moved forward into the future, yes. What we were last year, what we are this year, two completely different sets of reality.
like I look at it now as the afterlife,
Yes.
and before it was a life, and now it's afterlife, and
Yeah.
and everything is so interesting.
Oh, it's fascinating.
But we look at, there is a big change that will follow, because the growth of technology, which is wonderful, was without the right proportion to spirituality
Right,
and to ethics.
right.
So as technology grew, also certain unethical attitude grew. But I remember Jose Arguelles, who initiated the harmonic convergence and the Maya calendar, and he always spoke about that if there will be no balance between our speedy technical progress and our human qualities, something is going to give at some point. I think that since, as I see it, I think the big paradigm shift, which is also the name of my book, Paradigm Shift and Other Poems, the big paradigm shift started in the 60s. And everything changed since the 60s. And then came the harmonic convergence in 1987 and started the 25 years of the Mayan calendar. And I think that 2012 was kind of the last chance to keep that balance. And it feels a little bit after 9/11.
Yes.
Because I was there when 9/11 happened, and really affected my life very much, as so all this kind of the life before. So
Well, we've definitely moved into the future. We have definitely taken this gigantic leap into the future. But I sometimes ask myself, how many years is it going to be before we realize how far we did go into the future this year? And I doubt, I'm 80, so I don't think I will know.
right.
I think it's going to take more than 20 years even.
Yes.
I could be wrong.
No, you're right. 2040.
Yeah, something like that.
Maybe this process will reach a whole new resolution. I think everything that we know about civil lives, like cities, big cities like New York City, it's not going to be the ultimate model anymore.
No.
And so, there are millions of brilliant people who create the future at this moment.
Yes.
And we will have to live in it with artificial intelligence in our favor, working in our favor, if we really keep the ethics. And this can happen. And so all those movements now are protesting, and it's very hard. It's very hard when you go through time in between.
Absolutely. Absolutely. When I try to imagine, and I think as a poet that you definitely can understand this, when I think about how a young person, if I go back 50 years from now, to make myself 50 years younger and have this experience, I cannot even fathom how young people are experiencing this.
Where have you been 50 years ago?
Where was I 50 years ago? Lord, I don't know. 50.
Was it the 60s?
I was in Mexico, and I was in Venezuela. So it's hard for you, it's hard, young people today. I know how hard it must be to be young and to realize on some level that the moral compass is gone. The ethical, it's gone, it's not right. But maybe there's a lot of people that don't even think that.
But they should. This is why we have the Ethical Society in New York.
Yes.
To remind you that that if you have ethics, you don't need religion. And
absolutely.
And if you conduct your behavior with consciousness and dignity and trying not to hurt other people as much as possible and help. So everyone has to join this squad of cheer.
Yes.
Rescue squad of cheer. So anyhow, I see my little creations that I put on story as little rescue remedies.
Your rescue remedies. Listen, how often do you put together a book of poems?
Well, I'm trying not too often, because I know where I'm coming from. The people are very prolific in Israel. They write and write and write. But I really don't push creativity. I let it come through. And I don't even decide. I just want to see what wants to be. And this is how I can allow different disciplines to work through me and merge into a synthesis.
Do you think that now we are moving at a point where writers are moving, and musicians too, are moving at a point where we have more than one discipline? A writer has more than one discipline. A musician has more than one discipline. An artist has more than one discipline.
It's very natural for a person to have more than one discipline, because all the disciplines are connected. According to the Theosophists, there is this big snake who holds its tongue in the mouth, and the head is music and the tail is architecture, or vice versa. And in between music and architecture you can see all the arts. And it's all connected. It's all like all the senses are connected, and so is the moments of synesthesia, and everything comes together, and you can interpret music as a dance of colors. And so this is like the philosophy behind Designs for Enlightenment. Not to put people down, like, oh, you do this and now you do this. No, it's all connected. And we are really divine vessels to challenge, to channel our life experience into an expression. Because otherwise it will be heard forever. And there is, when you go through things and you live in a situation that is politically, personally charged, you have to do something with this. This is what makes us artists.
Well, I think that everybody's got a little bit of art. Everybody does.
Sure.
And how it comes forth for some people and not for others is a completely different thing. I was taking a writer's class and the teacher was talking about how we have these layers of creativity in our brain. It's a physical thing. And, in some people it comes out this way, and in other people it comes out the other way. And some people are able to channel their creativity we all channel it in different ways. But I see you've got,
I
you've
wanted
done
to
quite
show
a
this.
bit.
Yeah, I wanted to show this. This is called Paradigm Shift, and it's 24 of my poems turned into musical creation by John DiMartino, who is really a wonderful, very gifted musician, jazz. And he heard me once reciting a poem in a bar where he was playing. I actually went to hear him, and he asked me to come and recite a poem. And then there was a silence, and people were listening, and so it was my good fortune that John asked for more poems, and I sent him 40 poems, and he has chosen those 24 poems that are in Paradigm Shift. It's really a rare creation that connects the poem with visuals and with sounds. And I wanted to turn this into pleasure. And John DiMartino, I want to say that, like other musicians, he really is going through a hard time because all the jazz bars and all the wonderful clubs are closed. So he is really very gifted, and he's inviting, poets to send him poems, and he will compose the background music.
Very nice.
Yes. So this is a very good example how we adjusted.
So if I am a poet, which I am not, but if I am a poet and I just heard what you said, how would I contact him?
Well, John DiMartino, jazz, pianist, composer, producer.
Is he in New York?
Arranger, yes, he's in New Jersey.
Oh, he's in New Jersey, okay.
And
so we just Googled John DiMartino.
Yeah, he's on my Facebook.
Oh, he's on your Facebook?
Yeah.
Well, listen, while we're there, while we're on your Facebook, if someone wants to get a copy of the book, if they want to hear your poems, if they want to read your poems, where do they go?
Well, they go to Amazon, where I had recently some wonderful new reviews, and they can go to Barnes & Noble, and the other online. I know that Barnes & Noble have like 5 copies now, so it's really great support for the artist, and this is really a treasure. There are still a few copies of this, and it comes with a CD, and it's a whole new experience. And I actually did it like in this format, that it will be easy to see and read.
I just opened that up right before the show. I was so impressed by this.
Thank you.
Because, we need this.
Right.
We need this.
Yes, I love books, and I'm quite insulted at times how the font is so hard to read.
Absolutely.
And maybe this is one of the reasons I prefer to listen, because I have poetry books that are not only printed small but gray instead of black.
Right.
And
some of the fonts are not clear. I have been known, it's terrible, I shouldn't do this, but I have been known when I see a book that is like that, just suggest to the author, here's a business card. I know this place where the words come out printed clearly. The letters are clear. Because
Right.
I have a daughter who does not read because of things like that.
right,
And the world is filled with people who have reading problems.
right.
And it's not necessarily because they're dumb. Part of it is that they can't.
No, it's
they
really,
can't
it's
read
really
the words.
an effort to read.
Yes.
And you have to have the right light.
Yes.
And it took me a while till I created the ideal position for me to read sitting.
Yeah.
So I really have my place of reading. And it takes a planning. It's much easier to look at the computer.
You are so correct. If a person is going to read, they have to get physically in a specific position. We all have a position in which it is best to read, which brings us down to the Tai Chi of reading,
Right.
or the yoga of reading, or whatever.
Right, and how you sit and how you relate
Right.
and how you keep your body
Yes,
and
it's a
dignified.
posture. It's a posture.
Yes.
Amazing.
So I really don't like reading in bed, that most people do. And then books that I really like, I also take the time to read. Because it's such a pleasure just to see the letters. And when they're nicely printed. And when they serve your eyes.
Yes, and I am so in love with reading books, but I cannot get in love with reading words on a cell phone.
Well, it's also, there is a radiation all the time, and even if you always compromise, actually, when you read on the telephone. So, when you read from a computer, you can keep your distance and enlarge it. But so I'm really trying to minimize my touch of. Though it's good when you travel and you go in the bus, but it has been such a long time since I've done it.
Since you've gone on the bus?
Yes.
How long has it been since you've gone on the bus, my dear?
The last time I went to Manhattan.
When was that?
Well, last year.
Last year. That's true. It's true. With the pandemic, we've all slowed down. We have all slowed down. I got on that bus every time I thought about it and went to the city for whatever reason.
Recently?
No, not now. But before the pandemic. I think that's one of the good things about the pandemic. It slowed us down.
Well, we probably needed it.
I think so.
Because the sky are clearer and the people needed to stand still and have a reality check. So it's very painful for many people to do this reality check. And it's
well, you talked
it's a
about it
challenge.
earlier. You touched on it earlier. You talked about fear. And this is fearful. This is a very, very fearful time for many, many people.
Right.
Many people. You know, the world, people live in fear. So then we're now in a process of becoming friends with our fear.
Well,
Some of us,
well, Jung has suggested it that you have to befriend your shadow.
yes.
And so it doesn't surprise you anymore, and even the shadow that you see in the world is somehow a reflection
Yes.
that we have created it unknowingly, this environment that is so destructive for us. And all the knowledge was sustained for years in water, and what they've discovered about water and memory, and now all the water is melting and the snow is melting. It's like our books of history are depleting, and it's kind of a time that we need to breathe deeply and hope for the best and sing our song
Yes.
and keep our little light shining
Yes.
and keep our center awake and truthfully tune, because there are less and less distractions now, right? So you are finally, for the first time in your life, people can face themselves and see, did I do everything I really wanted to do? Is it really true that I never have time to read a book? Or that I'm too anxious to hold it in my hand? Or maybe I can try and play or bake or
You know,
etc.
sometimes I think that it must be very hard for someone to say, have I been able to do the things that I wanted to do? For someone who never thought about that.
Mm-hmm.
So this is a time of revelation
Indeed.
for many people.
Yes.
So when you think of it in terms of that, when you think of it in terms of finding one's moral compass, of finding what it is we want to do in life, and finding ourselves and looking ourselves in the mirror, then the pandemic is not so frightening at all. It's a wonderful gift.
Well, it's an invisible enemy.
Absolutely.
And when you have to deal with the invisible, it's a great challenge.
That's putting it mildly, girl.
Yeah.
Do you have
Because
enough?
most of our life we deal with the invisible.
Yes.
But sometimes it's our imagination or fear that there are monsters.
Or the future, you know, or the past, or, you know, that, yes, that's all invisible.
So it's still we can create a world with mind. You know, everyone is a master to really rebel and do their own thing. So many people waste their life because they have to satisfy others.
But to convince a person that he or she is a master, and that person has got 3 jobs, and, you know, afraid
Yeah.
for the health of the children, etc., etc., that's a very frightening thing.
Well, this is something that not everyone is allowed to look at. You know, it's like a revelation for people. And there is a mentality of the victim,
Yes.
and there is a mentality of the survivor.
Yes.
So I pretty prefer the mentality of the survivor.
As opposed to the victim. But people have to learn to get beyond, they have to learn to get away from the victim.
Mm-hmm.
That's a huge journey.
Yeah.
That is a huge journey.
Yeah.
You know, we're running short of time here.
Can you show some of those beautiful graphics?
I want to know, what do you have kind of up your sleeve? Are you starting something that you haven't told anybody about?
Well, I'm absolutely looking forward to do the recording with Cynthia Adler, the gifted, wonderful voice.
Do you have something else? Something that's maybe just beginning?
Oh, just beginning. The next day.
That's very true. But
And I'm also very excited about a book, my third book of poetry in Hebrew.
Oh,
that
really?
is-
Okay, we're getting to it.
Yes. Yeah, that is.
Beautiful graphics in there. Why don't you turn the pages?
Oh, would you like me to turn the pages on this? There are illustrations in this book. It's a beautiful, and this book has
She asked for the
the
first.
illustrations are gorgeous.
Just say the name of the book, please, and people will.
Well,
read it.
the one is, and you can say it, Down the Monster Hole.
Down the monster hole, or don't be afraid, I am only a child.
Now show us some of the graphics, the illustrations.
And this is a book, by the way, that it is very easy to read. It is
Right.
very easy to read.
So this is really my concept, and I really have chosen those letters very carefully because I want to honor the reader. The latecomer. Well,
And this one, this
take a
book,
chance and look at the book, and you will
And
not
enjoy-
regret it.
and this book has such beautiful artwork in it. I know this is yours artwork,
Sure,
right? Because
because it's because
Well,
I've been really
because-
doing art all my life.
and see, artwork is not something that I have done. If I can get the words together, then that's about all I can get it together. So, but this is beautiful, and I love.
Would
one
you
of
like
the
me to
things-
read something to?
Do we have time? Absolutely. Yes, please do read. We're going to take time to read something.
Are you going to edit it?
No. We do not. This is part of here we go.
So anyhow, I would like to read something new.
Oh, good. Okay, this is what I was trying to get to a few minutes ago. There's something new, something just begun.
Well, it's actually a poem into a song, and I composed it. I will read it now. Maybe
Okay.
I have a rattle somewhere if you want me to take it out. But I don't know if we have much time. But
Okay.
I think that the new paradigm is time is art. People were living by the concept that time is money too long.
Oh, absolutely.
So,
6 minutes. You have 6 minutes.
okay. So I think the new paradigm is time is art. And let's forget about time is money. Give me 5 and take a blessing. Glide as you strive, dips in your hips. Smile as you rise to greet the landing mothership. Time is art. Open your heart. Breathe inspiration and be on the run. Time is art. Follow your heart on that yellow, red brick into the light. Glide as you strive, and many blessings to you.
Oh, that's beautiful.
It's the language of the street,
Yes.
and so actually it's kind of a blessing that they give you, like if they want to say that an older lady looks good and she moves well, they say, dips in your hips.
That's a goal, girl. That is a goal for us. Dips in the hips.
So I'm wishing all our generation dips in our hips and many cheers, and keep your spirit and hope for the best, and always ask yourself, what can I do to make this world a better one, helping myself and others. So we pray for all, for peace on earth, and for peace in our community, and peace in our neighborhood, and peace on earth. Thank you so much.
And I thank you very much for watching this program. And I look forward to seeing you again. I hope that you'll give me a call sometime in the future and say, hey, I have something new to read on your show.
That's great.
And you can bring back these, and I'll tell you what, when you get your Audible book,
yes,
that would be great to have you back on.
Right, and then I will make big visuals of the
Wow.
art, and so we can listen.
Yes.
And something to look forward. Now we are done, right?